All right, good morning, everyone. Let's come on in and we'll get started here today. I hope everybody had a good day 2 of the conference. We were very excited to host you all yesterday, and I hope that you got something from all of the breakout sessions and the speakers that we had yesterday. Very thankful for Senator Debbie Sabinow for being here with us and sharing her insight, but as well as updates related to the upcoming Farm Bill. As a reminder, based upon that conversation, make sure that you pay close attention and start to reach out to your elected officials to share your urban ag stories. Not only your elected officials, but also pay close attention to those individuals who are on both the Senate and House committees related to agriculture, and so that we can continue to share the word and spread the word about urban agriculture. All right. This morning, we're very excited to welcome Representative Alyssa Slotkin, who serves the residents of Michigan's 7th Congressional District. As a third-generation Michigander, Alyssa spent her early life on her family farm in Holly, Michigan. The generations of Slotkins before her started and built their family business, High Grade Food, which supplied the now iconic ballpark Frank to the hungry crowds at Tiger Stadium. I must admit, I'm from Louisiana. When you say Tiger Stadium, I'm thinking about LSU, but we're talking about the Detroit Tigers, I assume, right? All right, I got you. The values which the family business rested on instilled in Alyssa an enduring commitment to integrity, decency, and hard work, one that eventually guided her to a career in public service. Alyssa currently serves on the Conservation, Research, and Biotechnology Subcommittee for the House Committee on Agriculture. And we're very excited to have her here today. It's primary day in Michigan. She has a very busy day. So without further ado, welcome Representative Alyssa Slotkin to the stage.
For the Michiganders in the room, anyone who would confuse Tiger Stadium with Louisiana, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be insulting us first thing in the morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. I'm Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here because I am passionate about urban agriculture. As you heard, I'm originally here from Michigan. We did have a family company called High Grade Foods. We made hot dogs. 3 generations of my family made hot dogs, and I grew up my early life on my family's beef cattle farm. I live there now. We grow soybeans and corn, but it just to tell you that I come from a different world than I guess most members of Congress. But I'm a national security person by training, as you heard. I'm what's called a 9/11 baby. I happened to be in New York City on my second day of grad school when 9/11 happened, and it pushed me into a career in national security. So it's impossible for me not to think about agriculture through the lens of national security. I want to thank a couple of people who are here. Obviously, Dr. Coleman and everyone who helped put this incredible conference together. We were so happy that it's in Detroit. We want you to come back every single year. Dr. Corley and his team and the planning committee for putting this all together. I want to give a shout out to Tim Boring and MDART director, who is our Mr. Michigan Agriculture, as I call him. We're going to get him a sash so that he can show up at every event that way. And I appreciate his willingness to be super open and forward-leaning on urban agriculture. And we have great people. I haven't seen them this morning, but Tefira Rushton, Detroit's Director of Sustainability, super excited about that position, Patrice Brown, and Jerry Hebron, USDA's local advisor on urban ag. So we've got a lot of urban ag. Yeah, there was a shout out there for a second. We've got some good local representatives here. So what does it mean to take a national security perspective on agriculture and food security? A year and a half ago, I got on the House Agriculture Committee in the House of Representatives. I represent Lansing and the 6 rural counties around Lansing. And I got on the Ag Committee for the first time about 18 months ago. You're drinking from a fire hose trying to learn all these issues because we're in the middle of writing a farm bill. And so I'm absorbing all that I can and going and visiting places. In here in Detroit, in Ypsilanti, we're visiting a ton of urban farms. And you're seeing the incredible hard work that is going into something that is just new and different and just a changed perspective on lives in cities and what it means to be a farmer. And I want to thank you all for being those pioneers, because I think we're moving into a different phase on urban ag. I think many of you have been at the forefront of creating this as something that rolls off the tongue for the policymaker, right? People know now what urban agriculture generally means. Now it's time to take it to the next level, and I want to be someone who's an ally and an asset on taking urban ag to the next level. I will tell you that, again, from a national security perspective, I had my wake-up moment during COVID, right? We were all sitting here, global pandemic, and we all know there were shortages and weird supply chain things happening almost immediately, first with masks and gloves and gowns. But pretty quickly, we started having things like our meat processing plants go down. And when your entire family is in the meat business and all your uncles and all your cousins are in that business, they start texting you those texts and those calls, like in all caps. Extremely worried. We all have those relatives who send us no punctuation, all capital letters, texts. And they were watching the processing plants close down because of COVID. And they were saying, Alyssa, Americans don't know what it's like to walk into a grocery store and see nothing on the shelves. They're gonna riot, they're gonna freak out, they're gonna panic, they're gonna do all kinds of crazy things. So I called Senator Stabenow, who I know opened up this conference earlier, and I said, look, you're the queen of agriculture, right? Debbie Stabenow, there's no one who's done more for Michigan agriculture and probably for many of our states than Debbie Stabenow. She is literally, thank you for the one lady clapping for Debbie Stabenow, thank you, I appreciate it, yes. She's amazing, and I called her and I said, you're the queen of agriculture, you're the chairwoman here. Can we, as Americans, feed ourselves if shipping goes down? And I always remember her answer. Her answer was this exactly: yes. It was like this elongated sort of hedging yes. And I said, is that by design or by accident? And she's like, it's kind of by accident. To me, when all the things started having shortages, mass, and then microchips, and then pharmaceuticals, and all these things, we must be a country that can always feed ourselves by ourselves. We can never let ourselves be dependent on another country. I don't want to have to ever say we couldn't get food in our supermarkets because shipping went down and there was some sort of problem, or there was a stoppage of planes flying from one portion of the world to another. So that is the lens in which I look at agriculture. I think the truth is we know that urban agriculture is different, and it's certainly perceived as different. And one of the conversations we were just having here before I came up is, how do we normalize and systematize what you all do, and make it just as normal a part of the USDA's life as any other part of agriculture? How do we take something that maybe forces a change and a paradigm shift to become normal and simple and efficient? Because what I've heard as I've visited local farms here and in Ypsilanti and in Lansing and in Grand Rapids is that there's some sort of systemic problems with getting access to all the good bounty that we have and we want for our farmers. Access to water, access to electricity, access to the grant writing capabilities that you need to fill out the paperwork to, got a lot of grant writers in the room, huh? How about understanding that some of the traditional software that is used by the USDA might not work for a smaller farm or for an urban farm. Understanding access to capital, right? How do you prove yourself, and not after 2 years, 4 years, 5 years in the business, but early on? How do you gain that confidence to get the money to start that farm? There's a bunch of things that you hear consistently no matter where you go, at least in the state of Michigan, and I'm gathering in other places. So that is the charge to elected officials. We've gotten urban ag to be like a thing, and I think in some areas, you all know, it's literally like hip and cool to have this, especially in a place where we have food deserts, where we have the desperate need for fresh food. People understand this community needs fresh food, this farmer is providing fresh food. Like, people are starting to get it who aren't in this industry, but the systems and the bureaucracy that you all have to deal with has not caught up. So let me take as my charge, certainly as a congresswoman, and for whatever comes next, that if I have the opportunity, particularly in the near term with the Farm Bill. We know that it's been a year of us going back and forth on trying to get that done. We will get a Farm Bill done. But how do we make sure that the rules that are written into the Farm Bill, the opportunities that are written in there, support what you all are doing, as opposed to continuing to see this difference between urban ag and kind of big scale farming? So let me take that as my charge. I would say the other thing that I feel passionately about is that we, in order to farm and be able to feed ourselves by ourselves, you need land. You need actually land to be accessible for agriculture. You need human capital, human beings who are willing to do this hard work, who are dedicated to this work, who understand business management and how to run things. And we know that across the country, the average age of a farmer is certainly older, right? It is older. How do we incentivize the next generation to go into farming? This isn't a radical concept. This isn't something out of the box. Many, many industries incentivize new people getting into that business by giving them opportunities and benefits. And one of the things that I'm super interested in is tax policy and how to give a tax break for someone who comes into farming. Right? So right now, if you have a family farm and you want to pass that farm down, that legacy farm to your child, your kids, your grandkids, they don't have to pay capital gains taxes, right? That's a big opportunity. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But what if you're a farmer and you no longer want to farm and your kids are off doing other things and they don't want to farm, but there's a farmer, a new young person who actually is interested in farming and wants to come into the business? But they would have to pay the capital gains taxes on that land, which is probably prohibitive for most people going into farming. How do we think about a carve-out for people who commit to keep that land agricultural and farmed? That, to me, is the kind of innovative thinking to bring new people into it so that it's not this huge barrier to get into farming that so many people see and feel. And then lastly, I'll just say, as someone who represents an area that does have a huge rural presence, right? Most of the towns in my district, besides Lansing and East Lansing, are 2,000 to 10,000 people, rural communities. I watch the sort of, again, wonderful legacy institutions like the FFA, young people writing me saying, come and watch me show my pigs and show my cattle, and do all these things that many people in rural communities grew up doing. How do we bring our young people in the cities into that experience at a younger age? How do we make sure that instead of them kind of coming to it later in life, that they're at 15 and 16 and 17 learning this business, being able to show it off at our fairs, at our big events, and gaining opportunity and gaining confidence by doing those things just like our rural kids. So again, count me as a champion on that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Lastly, I will just say, I was talking to a few folks. I think that for urban agriculture, I've seen it happen. People need to see it to believe it sometimes. They need to visit. I know you all I'm preaching to the converted here, but for a lot of folks who don't they have an image of a farm. It's like burned into their brain from some deep recess in their brain, and they don't understand what is actually happening in urban ag. And so I can't tell you how valuable I think it is to do these tours and take people on a visit. Have an event at an urban farm, like force policymakers to get their feet in the dirt, and it changes their perspective. I've seen it happen. So keep pushing. keep prodding, keep on us to understand your needs, be good advocates. We all know that the big farming communities have lots of lobbyists and advocates in DC. I can't, take 2 steps without someone wanting to come and see me about something from some of our bigger industries. And even in Michigan, where we are a specialty crop state, we sometimes are, sitting second fiddle after some of the big commodity groups, in the center of the country and in the South. You don't have the same lobbyist infrastructure, so you got to be that advocate yourself. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for caring about what happens in your community. I consider you part of our national security apparatus. You are helping to protect our country because you are feeding our people. There is no more basic responsibility than to feed your people. I'm deputizing you as national security advocates. Talk about what you do in that way because it's powerful. And thank you for being as committed to this hard work as you are every single day. Thanks, everyone. Have a good conference.
Thank you so much to Representative Slacken for being here today. And I guess I need to rebound and say go Tigers, the Detroit Tigers after that one, but yeah. All right, folks, everybody good? So bear with us today. We have a few changes that we're going to roll through this morning. Both Chief Cosby and Administrator Ducheneau had last-minute travel changes and are not able to be with us this morning. So we have a quick change. First up, the first change that we're going to make is Karen Woodridge from the USDA's NRCS is going to come up and talk to us about NRCS programming. So come on up.
All right, I've never had entrance music like that. That's pretty nice. Well, good morning, everyone. As was mentioned, I am not Chief Cosby, and I am not Administrator Ducheneau. So we are going to, like was said, shift gears a little bit, and I wanted to talk to you this morning about what NRCS does with urban agriculture, if you didn't know already, and what a great segue to go from Representative Slotkin into what I want to talk to you about quickly this morning as well. So again, good morning. I'm Karen Woodridge, Deputy Chief for Programs with NRCS. Happy to be here this morning. I think I will get a little bit of assistance from one of our state conservationists, Denise Coleman, here this morning as well, so she may help wind up my presentation this morning. But for those that don't know NRCS, a lot of times folks know USDA, but they're not quite sure what we do over at NRCS. And I just wanted to reiterate kind of what our mission is, really helping people help the land. And we are here to help folks, big, small, yellow, purple, green, white, black, whatever it is, identify your natural resource concerns and help you figure out what the best options are to help solve those resource concerns. So how do we do that? We are one of the only, if not the only, federal agency that provides that specific one-on-one conservation assistance on the farm. So you can come into the office, or we want to come to you and understand what's going on your property, what you do, how you do it, and what's best for your particular situation. And we want to provide you with the tools necessary to be successful. So what, again, does that look like? Well, it all starts with your land, whether that's a rooftop, a backyard garden, an empty lot, or a large field with large acreage. So we want to provide that one-on-one customer assistance and collect that data for you, help you understand what those resource concerns are, and how we can really help you figure that out. And remember that everything that we do is voluntary. So we want you to come to us. We want to be there as a resource. We want to connect you with folks if we don't have the answers, because we don't always have all of the answers or the resources, but we want to make sure you have those connections. So if you've never been in a USDA field office, I would encourage you to look us up, Google it, find your local field office, find that local urban center if you're one of those 27 locations, or if you're just a part of the USDA family and you want to find that out, search and seek those folks out. We are here to help you. And then get engaged. We have state technical committees at the state level, but we also have local working groups. And when it comes to urban, we have the new state entities. We've got the new national committees that the Office of Urban and Ag is working on. So there's great opportunities. Work with your local conservation district. And I'm here to talk a little bit this morning about some additional outreach efforts to reach those folks in urban locations that maybe we haven't reached before. So one of the things that Chief Cosby and all of USDA is committed to is equity and diversity. So that not only means in the type of customers that we're servicing, but the types of resources that we're servicing as well. And I want to reiterate, size does not matter when it comes to USDA. So there are no minimum acreage requirements for our programs, and we try to, thank you. We're working at getting better at removing some of those barriers, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a second here. Chief Cosby also has made a strong commitment to new customers throughout his tenure here, and we have a goal to reach at least 10% new customers every year in every state. So we're really trying to focus on getting to those folks who have been underserved in the past, and that includes many of our urban folks. So we're working on that. So what does that look like? Again, this top picture of Cleveland, Ohio back in July of 2019 was a pretty pivotal moment for NRCS and pretty pivotal from our Chief Cosby, who was the former state conservationist in Ohio. And he was a strong advocate for urban conservation. Specifically in Cleveland, we had a meeting there that he hosted. Must be some Ohio folks back here. That really kicked it off for NRCS and showed us really what we could do within the current programs that we had to service that urban community, and then opened that door to help us think a little bit outside the box of how we could navigate through the existing policies that we had, existing wiggle room that we had to really start serving some of those additional communities. So you'll see those two kind of bar graphs there, and you'll see the progress that we made. The height of those little blue boxes don't mean a lot, but the length of it does. So even in the last 12 to 24 months, we've gone from really utilizing a handful of conservation practices in an urban setting to now using over 70 small-scale scenarios within that. So the Congresswoman just mentioned also, how do we take those large-scale practices and make them fit in an urban setting? And so we're working on that within NRCS to try to figure out how we can make those things better. We have the science that's already there, so we just need to scale it appropriately to help folks maybe that have smaller equipment or smaller alleyways to get in and out, or maybe, that backyard garden that is very long and narrow instead of wide. So we're working on that. So what else have we done at USDA? This was a joint letter back from both Administrator Ducheneau and Chief Terry Cosby that went out to all of our state leaders, really charging both NRCS and FSA to, again, think collectively, think about all of our underserved communities, including urban. And his charge, both of their charges, were to increase our service and outreach in urban communities, working to understand their needs and, again, connecting them to available programs and resources. So we are all charged with that, and it's becoming just another part of our daily operations, which is what it should be, working with farmers, small, large, again, in rural and urban areas. So I mentioned this, again, Chief's priority, expand our tools, work and figure out how we can address those unique needs of farmers. So it's also a part of our conservation plan, it's part of our strategic plan that we continuously review, and we want to keep the efforts and emphasis going, whether Chief Cosby is there or not. So it is part of our strategic plan that we're trying to really identify those areas where we can help. So we had quite a long discussion several years ago about how do you define urban agriculture? Is it size specific? Is it population specific? What is it? So we chose instead to use urban as a description of that landscape instead of defining what urban looks like. So you can see there, right, whether you're in a population of over 1 million, that may be urban, of course. But what about a population of 300 in South Dakota? Is that urban? We think it probably could be. So we're trying to be, again, open-minded and remove some of those barriers. So again, no minimum size, no minimum income threshold, looking at how do we evaluate the number of small operations using other USDA data, gardening data. We want to make sure that all of those operations count for something. So again, you're just encouraged to work within USDA, get that farm number, and let us help you find those resources and make you more successful, make your communities more successful along the way. Again, just looking at some of the progress we've made over the last several years, and we expect that trend line to continue to go up as we continue with these priorities. We've seen a 22% increase in practices across those urban locations in the last several years. One of the greatest success stories recently was back in 2022 in New York. Where's my New York folks? Okay, over here. Hopefully, if you haven't heard about this project, maybe you were a part of this project. But the Biden-Harris administration announced what was called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law a couple years ago. And part of BIL was working on watershed and flood operations. So New York City actually received one of these, I'll call it a grant, for Urban Water Management Project. And it's pretty exciting what they're doing there. They're calling it the Green Thumb WFPO project, and it's the first of its kind initiative. NRCS has not really worked on our watershed programs within an urban setting. So this is really unique. It's kind of a pilot, trying to understand how we can do better, make our programs more available. But this Parks Green Thumb project sustains over 550 community gardens. And I don't know if there's anybody here in the audience that's a part of this project at all. Yay, that is awesome. I'm so glad you're here. I would love to talk to you after this morning and really understand, make sure this is working. But this is an amazing way to really develop a community. We talk about reliable water supply. We've heard that over and over the last day and a half about how you need that clean water supply and a reliable water supply. So this is a really great way for USDA to understand more of the needs of something like a New York City. So we're looking at alternative solutions to work on that water supply. We're looking at fire hydrants outside to irrigate. What about issues with low pressure piping, maintaining that piping? What does that look like? We realize that the typical installation costs in an area like this could range, upward of $300,000 to $400,000. So how can we help with that? Looking at some other water meter bib connections, again, food productivity increase, and helping protect the water supply of New York City. So just an exciting time to be a part of that project. Super excited to see how the outcomes go with that and how we can continue that moving forward. Another angle I wanted to mention this morning is, I think a lot of the general public, sometimes me included, often confuse locally grown with organically grown. And it is not the same thing, right? Sometimes it's one and the same, but a lot of times to be organic certified obviously takes a little bit more. So we at USDA want to help folks do that, not only at NRCS, but I know the Farm Service Agency also has additional resources to help folks that want to transition to organic. But from the NRCS side, we provide that technical assistance piece, whether that's through something like our seasonal high tunnels or our low tunnels, which are coming soon to an office near you, or the interim organic management practice. Again, these are things you can find and get resources and get assistance with through our local field offices. We have entered into some agreements with regional organic coordinators, so there are other professional partner groups out there that are able to help and connect you not only with NRCS, but other USDA financial and technical resources. And then again, the financial assistance piece from our small scale scenarios through several of our programs at NRCS. What does that look like? Again, everything starts with that conservation plan. So we want to help you figure out what those resource concerns are and make sure what you're trying to grow in is a good soil medium or something else that I'll touch on in just a second. How about pollinators? I think everybody's excited to talk about pollinators. I see a little whoop whoops up there in the audience, which is awesome. I know the Xerxes Society is out here. I know they have a table in the back. I think they gave a presentation yesterday. But NRCS is working very closely with them and several other partners to create partnerships through the pollinator partnership efforts. Again, looking at outreach, how can we provide better assistance? How can we help you with your small gardening needs? Everybody knows pollinators are a key component of successful gardening, of successful crop rotation, of successful food growth. So how can we help improve those community gardens and improve a stronger ecosystem, whether you're in that small or large setting? So additional opportunities. These three programs are kind of our main flagship programs. If you haven't heard of them, I would again encourage you to talk to your local field office representative. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program, again, voluntary conservation works. And so we're here to help you address and identify those conservation needs that you have. Conservation Stewardship Program builds upon maybe what you've started in EQIP or builds upon what you've been doing over the last several years or days or months or decades on your particular parcel of land. And the Regional Conservation Partnership Program is another great opportunity to work with different groups and leverage the public-private interface to try to develop some very specific projects and program goals within your particular area. What about soil testing? This is pretty new in the world of NRCS providing financial assistance, but soil activities are how we started at NRCS. We used to be called the Soil Conservation Service. Now we're the Natural Resources Conservation Service, but soils is the basis of what we do. So we want to be able to help you provide some financial assistance to test your soils. A lot of you are working in locations where you're not sure what was there maybe before you start that garden. Or maybe you're trying to plant something and it's not growing. And maybe it's a lack of nutrients in your soil, maybe it's too many nutrients, maybe it's some other strange things happening on what you're trying to grow. And we want to make sure that you know what you're producing, and you know what nutrients are going into what you produce, or maybe what shouldn't be going in. So a lot of great opportunities to provide some additional assistance for you to get that soil tested. And we can help you read and understand what those results might look like. A couple more activities, again, for you to look at, whether you're looking for manure composting opportunities, whether you're looking for additional nutrients. Again, we're here to help you do that on that particular soil that you're working on. So what if you get some soil test results that aren't so great? How can we help you? Well, we want to be able to help you create that above ground growing environment if what you're trying to grow in is not ideal. So we can help facilitate gardening on those locations where maybe it's not the greatest for crop production. So we can help you with weed barriers, with soil barriers, to separate those beds from the ground. Might be really helpful if you're trying to grow in something where a building was buried and you can't really dig into where there's concrete buried where you're at. So let us help you try to realize what you want to do in that particular location. Low tunnels, which are different than our high tunnels. High tunnels look more like a greenhouse. The low tunnels are just basically that enclosed structure to protect those plants from the elements. You're not necessarily working under them, obviously, but this is something new that we're getting into within NRCS, and perhaps this can help in locations where you might need to get a permit. If you're putting up a structure that's X number of feet high, low tunnels might be another option for temporary cover and may not require a permit in the situation that you're working in. And controlled environmental agriculture, growing in something other than the soil medium, is something we have not played around with much at NRCS until now because we hear the needs of our customers. Folks have been asking for us to think about this, to provide some technical guidance and insights. So we're getting there. We're not quite ready to let this baby out of the bag yet, but we're certainly working on it. And again, thanks to all the folks who have asked for this, and for our folks being open and willing to try to think about things maybe a little bit different than we have in the past. So what about training? I know there's several educators here today also, and partners that continue to help us not only train you as growers and you as partners, but our own staff internally. We need to sometimes take a step back and realize again that we need to provide some good technical assistance, some good resources, and offer you, again, different alternatives to understand how the science is developed and what it really looks like in practicality. So we're working on these things. We're doing some pilots in different states. If this is something you or your partnership are interested in, again, I would encourage you to talk to your local field office, talk to your state conservationist. And if you don't know who your state conservationist is, I challenge you to go back and find out. We have several that are here this week, so seek those folks out. They can be a great resource, again, for you as well. The Urban Ag Programs Handbook is something that we're working on. OUAIP, which gave a presentation yesterday from Leslie Glover. I think he's still here today. There he is, yes. Their office, of course, works very closely with our NRCS folks and are putting together a lot of great technical guidance and resources working in conjunction. So again, we're not quite there yet on getting ready to release these, but we have several technical notes. We continue to work on that small scale irrigation, hydroponics, aquaponics. We continue to build out those small scale practice payment scenarios. So not only do we take those practice standards and try to scale them appropriately, but then the cost has to go with that, right? Not on a per acre basis necessarily, but maybe it's on a square foot or some other more realized outcome or metric for that small scale. So we're getting there, day by day. And then urban soil health technical notes. Again, we all know that it's super important that we're growing in a very healthy location. So whether that is understanding and figuring out where you can get compost or how you can clean up that existing soil, we want to make sure we're able to help you do that and provide you with those resources, even if we're not available to give you that technical guidance. Again, some additional small-scale ag trainings. We are piloting these in Indianapolis and Portland in 2024, just to make sure we're hitting the right marks on these things, and we'll be offering those in future years, workshops for both public and partners to be able to come in and help with that. In Indiana, they've taken it a little step further and developed some additional planning tools that are using some common platforms, Excel, Microsoft Word, some additional basic cover crop tools and guides, working with several of our partners. They're working on nutrient management tools that are easy to use and understand, an irrigation water management tool, so that again, even if you don't get financial assistance from NRCS, we have those technical resources that are available for you as well. This one in particular is in conjunction with the local Soil and Water Conservation District, so they are another great resource for you as well. Most of the time they're located in conjunction with the USDA Service Center, but not all the time. So if you can't find USDA, find your local Soil and Water Conservation District as well. Some additional urban ag workshops, just trying to re-emphasize the point. This was in St. Louis, Missouri, that we are working on, trying to get out and help folks understand the importance of soil health and what it looks like to have a great soil structure versus when you might need to bring something in or maybe look for a different location. And what about livestock? We've talked a lot about crops and plants and flowers and herbs and pollinators, but what about folks that are able in their locations in an urban setting to talk about chickens, to talk about goats or pigs or horses? So we are trying to figure out how do we help you, again, when it comes to livestock management, whether that's odor control, manure control, noise control. You know, a lot of ordinances in those backyards, right? One chicken, only a hen, no roosters. What does that look like? So we're working on that, trying to help provide some additional resources, help you figure out groundwater issues that may arise from that, protecting water quality and water quantity. And then how about agroforestry? Sometimes you want to grow some trees, some shrubs. Maybe it's for windbreaks, maybe it's for shade, maybe you have a water body that runs through that 1 acre in your backyard and you want to do something for that as well. So additional ways that we are looking at some of those economic and social benefits of something additionally, you know, that's not necessarily a row crop or an edible crop, but maybe it's for fiber or berries or some other kind of fruit crop. Again, what does that mean? We are looking at that microclimate for the soil plant productivity, looking at how can you in an urban setting help reduce impacts from flooding. You know, there might be opportunities for you to do that within your community, within your neighborhood. So we want to try to help you with that. And then helping with that increased carbon sequestration and storage. We have something called the Inflation Reduction Act within USDA where we've been given additional dollars to help address climate smart ag and forestry. So how can we help the urban community respond to that call and that challenge as well. I mentioned water quantity and water quality, looking at how we can look at variable water use efficiency, help you out in that local setting. What you're watering your garden with, does it have to meet water quality drinking standards? Perhaps not. Do you want it to? Perhaps you do. So how can we work together to figure out good water sources for you? So not only quantity, but as I mentioned, quality. And let's also face it, urban farms can contribute to poor groundwater, and erosion still happens on small farms and urban farms as well. So one of the big debates as administrations change with the urban conservation concept, and the argument that can be made is just because you're converting or switching from a rural setting to an urban setting, that soil particle doesn't care, right? So erosion can happen across those urban-rural boundaries, whatever that looks like. So we want to make sure we continue to think about the resource, protecting it no matter where it is. Additional water quality, as I mentioned, urban environments can also have negative impacts on water treatment systems. It's not just the rural community that has to worry about some of those regulatory options as well. Water management, again, some additional ways to look at roof runoff structures. How can we capture irrigation? How can we put gutters maybe on a building and help you collect that rainwater? So let's think about that together, collectively, in those urban settings. I mentioned this also a little bit about the urban aquaculture. How do we figure that out? Getting our engineers more updated and more acquainted with, again, small-scale engineering practices, wildlife opportunities, both in the aquatic and terrestrial areas. More fisheries, wildlife biologists working in those urban settings is important as well. And then before I ask Ms. Denise Coleman to come up and talk a little bit about specifically what's happening in Pennsylvania, I did want to mention we do have what's called Conservation at Work video series. There's a QR code there as well, but it's real stories about real successes about how you can utilize some of our conservation practices. Some in the rural settings, and several more coming in the urban settings. So take a look at that. It gives you an example of what some of these practices can look like, how they can be used, how you can build them, and it's interviews with some of the folks that have actually installed these in the past. So a great way to kind of dabble, dip your foot in the pool a little bit if you want to find out about some of the opportunities for us to work together at NRCS. Again, several other QR codes here for you to take a look at. Several resources available at farmers.gov, and I would encourage you to check those out as well, whether that's, again, for a loan, the service center, pollinators, whatever it might be. So Denise is going to come up and just talk a little bit quickly about what's happening in Pennsylvania on the urban ag front. Pennsylvania was one of the flagship urban centers, and Denise is going to talk a little bit about what that means. And again, congratulations to those folks who are here in the room that are part of those now 27 urban offices, and she's going to talk a little bit about that. So Denise.
I'll do it this way. Hey, thank you, Karen. It was an honor for Karen to ask me to present today to talk a little bit about Pennsylvania's story with urban agriculture. And folks, I'm here, but there were a lot of other people in Pennsylvania urban agriculture before me. We've had a long history of working in NRCS in Philadelphia and with our producers there, but I just wanted to let you know that I stand here, but I stand on the shoulders of others. So a little bit, when we talk about Pennsylvania agriculture and when we talk about what that is, when I give a presentation to all of our new employees, I usually spell on the board, I usually have an easel, and I say, trust. And what do we do, and how do we do that? I say, I want you to keep in mind as a new employee that's working for NRCS, what is trust? And that means spell that in your head. And they say, okay. I say, what does TR mean? And they'll all look at me quizzically and say, we don't know. And I say, okay, we treat resources. And they tell me, okay. And then I say, who do we work for? And they'll tell me, we work for the farmer. And I say, well, and I tell them, who do we work for? And they'll say, we work for the private forestry landowner. And I say, no. Well, UST spells U.S. taxpayer. And folks, you're all U.S. taxpayers. And so I make it very clear to our employees that they, in essence, serve the public, and they serve you, and you are U.S. taxpayers. And there should be no distinction for us as public servants of who we serve. But kind of one of the most visual things that happened when we came, I'm learning here the slides, was Chief Cosby and Zach Ducheneau, and of course Secretary Vilsack announced a way to make us more apparent to U.S. taxpayers. And we have 17 urban off-service centers, and I think they're in the back here. Do we have representatives from all? All right, we have representatives there. And Philadelphia is one of those areas that they have said, yes, we're going to make a presence to those urban U.S. taxpayers within USDA, and Philadelphia is one of those. So we opened a new urban office, and I didn't mean to cut people out of this photo, but I want you to see in the center is Chief Cosby, but to his left is Albert Wells, and Albert has been working for NRCS for 55 years in one capacity or another. And he started working in Philadelphia many years ago. And so when I say that we're on the shoulders of others, Albert is on the left of Chief Cosby, and he has supported urban growers for many, many years in Philadelphia. And so we opened and cut the strings, cut the ribbon there to open. I want to do a shout out to Heidi Secord, my peer, Farm Services Agency Executive Director. Couldn't have done it without her. But we sat down with urban growers and our urban subcommittee, and they made the decision of where we should be located in Philadelphia. And I think that's very important as we looked to site these new 17 locations, is to hear from our customers. And you know, we sat around the table and we had a GIS specialist, and the first thing we did was highlight train lines, highlight subway lines, highlight where those gardens were. We had the ability of GIS. We could outline the 440 plus gardens in Philadelphia. And there was some decisions about whether this should be on western side of Philadelphia or right downtown. There was a lot of back and forth. And what really became apparent as we looked and when we heard from our customers was that this needed to be in downtown Philadelphia. This urban center needed to be in downtown Philadelphia. And do we have any Philly people here today? Yeah. All right. They really gave USDA a really hand up to help us, and they put us in the Leon Sullivan Center. And for those of you that don't realize who Leon Sullivan was, he was a very big civil rights economics leader in Philadelphia. And it shows a symbol that we are here to stay within USDA, and we are here to to help make some things right. So that is our new service center. I will tell you, you can have a service center, but the biggest thing that helps us speak to the crowd of people is, as Karen said, the high tunnel. We were working in Philadelphia for decades, but those high tunnels really made people turn around and look and say, who's putting those up? And so that put us on the map in Philadelphia. We were doing things like irrigation work, and we were doing things, conservation practices out there. But really, once the high tunnels were out there on the sites, people said, who's the agency that's helping us put those in? And so we did do a lot of other things that assist us. We're not just about high tunnels, even though they kind of put us on the map. But we also do, as Karen said, low tunnels, raised beds, cover crops, pollinator plantings. One of the things that I'm honored to be able to work with, and one of the founding ways that we worked in Philadelphia was with the W.B. Saul High School. And for those of you that may know, Saul is the largest agricultural farm school in the country. And it has the largest FFA chapter in Pennsylvania. And 40% of those students are classified as economically disadvantaged. They come from homes where they may not have food security. And we've been working with Saul for many, many years, but I will tell you that those students are extremely enthusiastic, and I have a couple of them that contact me regularly and say, Ms. Coleman, where can I help? Where can I do work with USDA? They are hungry to work in food and agriculture. So another bit of a footprint that we've had in Pennsylvania is the People's Garden Initiative. We have 27 People's Gardens throughout Pennsylvania, but we have tried to make this in Philadelphia a flagship. We have tried to start those urban gardens with churches, schools, and nonprofits, so people can start hearing all the benefits and services that are in USDA. And so we're not talking about just structural practices, but we're talking about that core technical assistance work that Karen alluded to. How do we help you with soils? How do we help you with soil? How do we help you with irrigation? How do we give you technical guidelines? I was in a presentation with Xerxes and my friend Edwin Muniz, who's here. He's a soil scientist. And they said, well, how do we as customers know what type of resource concerns we have? Because for us, it starts with resource concerns and how we address those resource concerns on the farm. And we said, you don't have to know that. Our people are here to serve you and will help you know what your resource concerns are. They can look at the raised beds that you may have. They can look at your soil tilth. They can check fertility. They can look at, you can tell them what the problems are. And hopefully our folks out there on the landscape will be able to help you. But these PGIs, these People's Gardens initiatives, that really helped us showcase the technical assistance side of the work that we did. As a state conservationist in Pennsylvania, I wanted to make sure we hit the big three. Again, the nonprofits, the churches, and as well as the schools. And these are two examples that we have here. We funded the youth school project in 2022. We looked at, that is a competency-based high school. They came to us and they said, we'd like you to rip up our parking lot. And we're like, okay, we're ready. We can do that. That's debris removal. Well, what happened is after it went, we were all set to go and remove that parking lot. And what happened is the school board came back and said, wait a minute, we don't want to lose all of our pavement. So our folks came back and technically designed something that allowed for that school to have the gardens there on the left-hand side, but also keep their pavement. And so they creatively did that, and that's our job. We're there to help you help the land. So that was one example of us kind of going out there, working with the customer, doing some creative thinking, and putting those types of raised beds in there and allowing that school board to still keep some of their pavement. The second one is working with a nonprofit, that's Philadelphia Orchard Project. They've been in operation for 17 years. Again, there's a long history of groups working in Philadelphia. They had a food forest site. Do you know what their site is? Anybody from Philadelphia want to tell you what site POP is? The Woodlands, and it's a cemetery. It's attached to the cemetery, of all things. So the orchards is used, Ty, you're right, it's used as a learning experience with programs that teach participants. So one of the things that those People's Garden Initiative did, as well as the structural practices, is also adding that TA out there, adding that educational assistance to help future growers. But I find that I find it funny that it's in a cemetery. At this point in time, we've reached out to about 100 growers in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia proper. Pennsylvania, we've expanded our outreach to a lot of different urban areas. We're hoping, where's our Pittsburgh crowd? We're hoping to open an office in Pittsburgh. All right. And we've had a presence in Allegheny County, which is the county of Pittsburgh, for many years, but we're hoping that another service center in Pittsburgh will really kickstart some more USDA assistance to those producers. In Allegheny County alone, I looked the other day, and we had 169 conservation contracts within that county. But I think the presence of an office is going to make us there available for urban taxpayers and people who are using those farms out there. So I'm looking forward to that. We don't do this alone, as I said. We do this on the shoulders of others. And what I'd like to tell you is that Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, Russell Redding is our secretary. He certainly is extremely supportive of the work that is done in urban areas. He and I were, at the first month of COVID, we were extremely worried. We'd have, every 2 days, we'd have a meeting together where we'd talk about the food supply issues that were happening in Pennsylvania and the processing issues that we were having. And people didn't know we were having those discussions, but they were scary times. And so he also saw the light and has been a huge advocate for urban agriculture in the state of Pennsylvania. So I talked a little bit about the urban subcommittee, and I just wanted to bring home this fact. As I told you, we met with the urban subcommittee. They were very helpful in helping us work and locate the Philadelphia Service Center. But they're also unselfish. And that's not, I really want to give a shout out to our urban subcommittee. Do we have members on the urban subcommittee here for Pennsylvania today? Okay. They're made up of a bunch of growers in Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and Philadelphia. And as a state conservationist for many years, I've had a set aside of money to about $250,000 that's for those 3 cities. We've wanted to make sure that we're having an impact and a targeted assistance for financial assistance in those 3 cities. And what they came back to me and said is, Denise, we want it to be more expansive than that. We want you to spread the wealth. Now, I don't often hear that. And they said, we'd like you to grow urban agriculture in other areas of the state. And so what they did is they made decisions and they advised us on population densities. And they came back and they said, we want to redetermine the map of where urban agriculture is in Pennsylvania. And so you'll see us not just in Philadelphia, not just in Pittsburgh, but we're in Erie, we're in the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area, we're in the Harrisburg area, we're in Lancaster County, where we have 55,000 farms just in Lancaster County alone, but they wanted to focus on urban agriculture in Lancaster. And of course, Reading and Allentown. So they themselves have decided that their legacy that they want to leave is that we're moving forward in other areas of the Commonwealth. I just want to finish up our conversation, and I really do want to do a shout out to Edmund Muniz, who has been, he's a New Jersey state soil scientist, but he has been extremely helpful for us in Pennsylvania in kickstarting the, what we say is probably one of the most important things that we're doing out there. We have hired a soil scientist in Philadelphia. It's also serving Pittsburgh, also serving Harrisburg, but they're detecting the lead levels in those urban soils. And what's happening, what we're finding is that many times where the houses were, there are very high lead and arsenic levels. And what's happening is we're trying to remediate that. We're either putting in the raised beds, as Karen had indicated, or we're moving to the lawn. In Philadelphia, everything's kind of like a shotgun type of approach. You had the house and you had the lawn. And what we're telling producers to do, and what these soil tests and are showing, is that let's move your farm to the lawn and farm there, and do other things with where those lead and arsenic levels are. So that has been extremely popular. We continue to move out on that. This year we had 17 sites: Philadelphia, Delaware County, Dauphin, Lancaster, Berks. People find out that that's available by USDA and they're very interested. So we have, what do we do with that information? We give it to you as a producer. We don't report that to EPA. That's for you as a producer to know. And we don't give it to the Department of Environmental Protection. But we want you as growers to know what you have and what you need to be cautious of. And so this is what happened with that. This is a picture of some areas that you wouldn't think that picture on the left, that there would be elevated lead levels. That looks like just a yard to you. It looks like that to me. And what we found is they were extremely high lead levels, extremely high. So what we worked to do is put raised beds in. Agriculture didn't leave that site. It just happened in a different way, in a different practice. And then finally, one of the last things that we do, and that we have done in Pennsylvania, is map those urban soils. Several years ago, we were the first map being happened outside of Philadelphia in Delaware County. We have moved that over to Western PA. If I have learned nothing as a Pennsylvanian, it is all world. We have a lot of things that we should be very proud of in Western PA. And so the world does not stop in Philadelphia, and it certainly doesn't stop in Harrisburg. And Western PA is where a lot of new ideas and things come forward. And so we are now working on a PA urban soil survey update. And for those of you that do not know, as you speak to your state conservationists, ask them if there is an updated soil survey in their area, because there probably is. Or there's plans to move out on an updated soil survey. So with that said, thank you, Karen. Thanks for having me. happy to further discuss. Thank you to our Pennsylvania folks who are here, and really appreciate the time that we've had. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Denise, for your overview this morning of NRCS programs and what's going on in the state of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia regarding urban ag. I want to take this opportunity this morning. I know many of you all have seen me running around and engaging, talking to me, but I am Ronald Howell Jr. I am the Virginia FSA State Executive Director for Farm Service Agency, and I also serve as the Senior Policy Advisor to Administrator Duchesneau, who is our Administrator of the Farm Service Agency. And as as the State Executive Director for one of the 17 cities, it is my pleasure and my absolute honor to help lift up Richmond, Virginia as one of those 17 cities. But I also get the delighted pleasure to work across all 27 cities in helping FSA and the many different folks that work in national headquarters bring this urban ag initiative and palette to life across the nation. And so as this is our third day, and I hope that you all have been enjoying yourselves. I want to take the opportunity to just talk a little bit about our work at Farm Service Agency as we continue to endeavor and move this initiative along. I don't work in silo. We have a lot of great folks, both out in the field and across the nation, as well as in Washington, D.C., that help us each and every day craft policy decisions and to help focus our efforts. But these focusing of our efforts at FSA could not be done without having the assistance of farmers and producers and cooperators telling their stories, helping us to know how we should rewriting policy or rewriting policy and programs. And definitely I must say that we don't do this work alone as one singular agency. We work in tandem with our Natural Resources Conservation Service staff and agency as sister agencies to lift this work up. And I have to take this from my good friend and fellow colleague, Thaddeus Fairley, who's the Mississippi Farm Service Agency State Executive Director. While service is the second letter of our agency title, it is our first and our utmost priority to deliver service to the folks, the customers who come across our door. Why? Because you don't have to come inside of a service center to receive service if you don't want to. Nothing is telling you have to come into our doors. You come into our doors on service centers across this nation because you want assistance, you want help, you want to start operations, you want to expand those operations, you want to build upon, you want to understand how the federal government can help support you as you continue to support. And as Representative Slocum said, as you all have been deputized as a part of national security to provide food and fiber for your communities. And with that, we are working to endeavor at the Farm Service Agency because everybody knows without that farm serial number, that's the first and foremost thing to help you get started on your USDA journey. You can't access any of our NRC, our sister agency programs without having that FSA number. And it is a very critical element to what we do at the Farm Service Agency. Yesterday, we had the wonderful privilege during the breakout session to have our Michigan FSA partners as well as national leadership from the Deputy Administrator for Farm Programs area as well as staff to talk about the updates and programs that are happening on the FSA side to help urban producers. But it doesn't just stop there. FSA has received a commitment of about $40 million to invest in urban ag programming. And we've doled out majority of that money to you all as cooperators to help us understand what we don't know. And what I mean when I say what we don't know is that we hear all the time that we may do the traditional farming very well, but we don't understand what it means to farm on a small plot of land or the records that are different than coming in and doing acreage reporting. And so what we recognize is that the best way to get that, and if I was Administrator Ducheneau, he would say, let them tell you what we need to be doing. It should not always be that FSA should be telling you what we need, but you telling us how we are here and how we should be here to help you. And so with that, we carry that as our charge. We are empowered as an agency. We stand true to this commitment that was made to us by President Joe Biden and the unveiling of the American Rescue Plan Act. We have laid out a foundation for cooperators. We have our national cooperator team led by wonderful partners at VSU, College of Ag and the Small Farm Outreach Program, and the Time Inc. organization to improve Mississippi economics, who are working with sub-partners on their team, Virginia Tech, Cornell University, as well as others from Tulane University. And so we are endeavoring to make sure that each and every one of you can be empowered to do what it is that we need help in getting achieved. Secondly, I want to take the opportunity to tell you how important it is that as we stand true and firm on this commitment to urban ag as an agency, we need your support. We've heard and talked about these urban county committees, and it is our administrators' focus that we stand up 27 independent urban county committees that will help and recognize and work with urban CEDs and urban PTs and work to do outreach with urban customers that we are trying to bring into our doors and provide service to. And so as you understand the Urban County Committee, we are right now in the nomination period, which is about to close. And so I endeavor you to go out into, if you are a producer, you're connected to ag, sign up to get on the Urban County Committee, because it's very important. We take this very seriously. We are working hard because we want to understand and we want to make we have only one opportunity to get this right. And we're doing our best to try to get this right. And I will tell you, it is no easy feat. Sometimes it feels like we know where we're going and we have it. But then there's other times we feel like we're building the plane, flying the plane, working on the plane, boarding the plane, and de-icing the plane all at the same time. But that's okay. I understand that. That's exactly right. The plane has to take off. And certainly through our efforts as we continue to move this initiative forward, we are going to take off and we're going to make it to our destination. We have some wonderful captains and we have some wonderful flight attendants, and there are some great passengers that are on board this plane. And I want to take the opportunity to introduce you to some of the flight crew, since I call it a plane. I really do, because I want you to see who they are. If I could have our urban ag CEDs, our urban ag PTs, and our SEDs to come up to the front, I want you to introduce yourselves, introduce your position, and to help into, come on now. You know, I'm an educator now, so come on. I want, if you are Urban Ag CD and Urban Ag PT, if you are an SED of a state, I want you to get to the front of the line. I want you to come on up here. I want you to come on up here. Come on down like it's the Price is Right. Come on down. All right. Now, but as they are coming, we are very excited to be Team FSA joined by our NRCS colleagues to make sure that you all have this, to have this. I mean, look at this, y'all. I'm telling you, look at this. Come on, look at this. This is, yes. And I can't say it enough. Administrator Duchesneau, he was very committed. He stays on me all the time about we need to make sure that we get all of these COCs in place. We have 18 in place right now. We're working to get the last 9 in place. And he said, I want you to get these folks hired in these cities, and we're doing just that. And so we're doing this. And I just have to shout out one person. I don't know if he's in the room, but our Deputy Administrator for Field Operations, Marcus Graham. Yeah, we can give it up for Dayfo Graham. I stay in Dayfo Graham's office when I'm in Washington, D.C., pushing him as I'm pushing the administrator to say, hey, I need more resources. I need to make sure that the state SEDs have the resources. I need you to work through this for me. I need you to go across the street to help me. And so at no end have I not had the support in this position to make sure that I can help these ladies and gentlemen across the front of this stage, help each and every one of you across this nation uplift this. So without further ado, we're going to start right here. I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us what state you're from and what your position is as we get ready to try to wrap this opening session up.
Hi, I'm Pamela Solom. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm a district director.
Sandra Martinez, CED, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Talessa Hadami, I'm the CED for the Phoenix Urban Ag Office.
Jim Barber, SED for New York.
My name is Mia Harrell. I'm the program analyst out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Daria Zaprashenko, CED for Las Vegas.
LaShonda Tucker, CED for Arkansas.
Brandon Crumsey, CED, Atlanta, Georgia.
Now, we've shouted out most cities, but I want to hear Chicago really quick. Any Chicagoans? Woo! Yeah, there we go. Thank you. JC in Chicago. I'm the program analyst.
Cheryl Durand, UCOC Chair, New York City.
Cleveland, Ohio, Tanya Holmes, COC.
What up, though, Detroit? My name is Jamal Thomas, and I'm the UCED for Detroit, Michigan. We in the house? All right, hometown.
Hard to follow that up. Heidi Secord from Pennsylvania. I'm the state executive director.
Dan Smirowski, State Executive Director in Massachusetts.
Gail Greenman, State Executive Director in Oregon.
Laurie Slade-Funderburk, SED in South Carolina.
Belong Zhang, SED, California.
Christy Salen-Bean, acting SED in Michigan.
Ailita Whalen, I'm the program analyst in Richmond, Virginia.
Good morning, my name is Maya Robertson. I'm a CED in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I want to congratulate my urban COC that's here today, and also my FSA cooperators, Sprout NOLA. We have a micro grant, so I administer farm programs in the New Orleans area.
Hi, I'm Renee Foster from Richmond, Virginia. We also have 2 of our COC members here, Derek Gooden and Sarah Whitney.
Good morning, my name is Josh Schultz. I'm the urban CED for Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I'm Joe Wall, the State Executive Director for 2 states, Missouri and Missouri. And I'm very glad to have all of our Missouri people here today. We are two cooperating sponsors, the University of Missouri Extension for the St. Louis area, and also Cultivate Kansas City for Kansas City.
Good morning. I'm Miriam Villamil. I'm the Urban CED for New York City.
Hello, Nina Berryman, Urban County Executive Director for Philadelphia.
Ben Potter, Cleveland Program Analyst, Cleveland, Ohio.
Good morning, Amanda Welker, CED, Portland, Oregon.
Hi, Allison Bunyan, a program analyst in the Bay Area of California.
Tristan Mizak, I'm the CED for Cleveland, Ohio.
Good morning, my name is Stephen Tucker, and I'm the CED in Dallas, Texas.
Woo! Thank you, Ellen.
Good morning, Kay Wolf. I'm the CED in Houston, Texas.
Good morning, my name is Edouard Litaba-Akila. I'm a program analyst in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Carol Strother, I'm the Urban Ag State Coordinator for Missouri and Missouri.
Good morning, Jody Carter, District Director, South Carolina.
Good morning, Rod Woods, District Director for Little Rock, Arkansas.
Good morning, I'm Callie Turner. I'm the Farmland Manager in St. Louis, Missouri.
Thank you. You all may return to your seats. Got you. So in the federal government we talk in abbreviations. So UCOC, CED, PA, PT, FSA. We got a book that's probably about 10 inches thick, and it goes in volumes of all of the abbreviations. But our UCOC is our Urban County Committee, and our Urban County Committee, as I told you, are working with our Urban Ag County Executive Director, which is the CED, and our Urban Ag Program Analyst, who are in these offices working with customers and producers who come in the doors wanting to learn about our programs. Our program analysts stand at the front line. Again, I'm not Administrator Duchesneau, but our program analysts are our front line. They are on our front line across all of our county offices, working to receive and welcome customers as they come through our door and helping to talk to them about our programs. Our urban county executive directors, they are the leaders of these offices, and they work directly with our urban county committee members to make sure that outreach is being done, the office is being maintained, there's resources coming in to service the clients and the customers that we have. And of course, those individuals are led by district directors and farm loan, and we also have farm loan managers that work with us on our farm lending. But then ultimately, all of this work rolls up to our SEDs, our state executive directors, those of us who have been placed in trust of making sure that urban ag moves across the cities that have been identified in their respective states. And with that, I appreciate the opportunity to share the platform this morning, again with our colleagues from NRCS, to introduce you all to the flight crew that's helping us, that's going to get this plane in the air. And I look forward to talking and engaging with you all throughout the rest of the day. This concludes our opening session. We will begin promptly at 9:45 with our general session and a keynote speaker. Thank you.